There are new details now surfacing in the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting that nearly took the president's life. And get this, the shooter has a shocking connection to the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Plus, major fireworks in the James Comey case. A federal judge slammed the prosecution today. It was not pretty. Will this case even survive the fallout? Meanwhile, President Trump is taking bold action to tackle affordability for all Americans. This, as Chicago's public schools are exposed for blowing millions of your tax dollars on lavish overseas trips. Safari, anyone? Your money, their vacation. As always, hit that like button. Welcome if you're new here, and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you never miss the day's top headlines. So we're learning some new and frankly bizarre details about Tyler Crooks, the man who opened fire at President Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Take a listen to this.
This guy, Thomas Crooks, was interested in this furry site, spent a lot of time there, had various images that he liked and reposted, and also gave his pronouns as they, them. But I think the more important part is what the comments, his online comments from, he was very young, 15, 16, 17, show us about how he became increasingly violent and sort of radicalized against Democrats. He was pro-Trump. And then in January of 2020, he flipped 180 degrees. Something happened to make him become rabidly anti-Trump.
Okay, so then something strange happens in August of 2020. Crooks completely disappears from the internet. Entirely, poof, gone. And this is a guy who practically lived online. Now you fast forward to July of 2024, he fires 8 shots, kills Corey Compentor, and grazes President Trump. And keep in mind, the man accused of targeting Charlie Kirk also shared this bizarre furry fixation. At some point, you have to start to wonder what exactly is going on in these corners of the internet. Now, here's the former FBI deputy director. This is interesting. Talking about Crook's social media. This was back in July of 2024.
There were over 700 comments posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature.
Now, according to Miranda Devine at the New York Post, that's only half the story, literally. She reports that the FBI left out an entire section of Crook's online activity from January to August of 2020, when he went from aggressively pro-Trump to aggressively anti-Trump. And then suddenly he went completely silent across more than 10 social media platforms. The deputy director giving testimony at the time, he didn't mention any of that. Not a word.
It's inexplicable that Paul Abate would give only that first part of the trajectory for the would-be Trump assassin. It just led Congress and led the public to think something different about Thomas Crooks than was the reality. I don't understand why Paul Abate would do that. And I think it would be good if Congress could bring him back and ask him why. I think the president and people close to him are understandably frustrated or unsatisfied. And I think the public is unsatisfied.
And now Senator Ron Johnson, he subpoenaed the FBI under Kash Patel for Crooks' autopsy, forensic evidence, and a whole stack of documents. We'll see where that goes. But let's be honest, the American people deserve transparency. And guess what? We might get some transparency when it comes to the Epstein files. President Trump with a plot twist. He's now urging Republicans to vote yes on releasing them because he's finally saying, let's take that political pawn off the Democrats' chessboard. Speaker Mike Johnson trying to schedule a vote that'll happen hopefully this week. It should pass the House, but whether or not Senator John Thune will bring it to the floor remains to be seen. I'm guessing he will at this point. Democrats, meanwhile, they're sprinting in circles now that Pam Boendi's investigating Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and a few others who'd really prefer not to be in the same sentence as Epstein. Their response? Oh, this is just a stalling tactic, which is rich coming from the people who turned stalling into an Olympic sport. Here's Chris Coons weighing in.
My gut hunch is that Attorney General Bondi, having just been ordered on social media by the president to open an investigation into a series of high-profile Democrats, will promptly say, oh, no, there's an ongoing investigation. We can't disclose any of this. And the president will back that up.
If the investigation was surrounding a guy by the name of, Donald Trump, we all know the Democrats would tell us we need to be patient and let the investigation play out. Now, top aide for Bill Clinton, he responded to the email dump we saw last week, by writing, quote, "These emails prove Bill Clinton did nothing and knew nothing. The rest is noise meant to distract from election losses, backfiring shutdowns, and who knows what else." Ah, yes, the classic, he knew nothing, nothing at all. Always reassuring. And then there's Chuck Schumer, who was asked why Democrats didn't release the Epstein files during the Biden administration. And boy, talk about Olympic-level dodgeball. Watch this.
It's a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Or not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like this released, when even a whole lot of Republicans are calling for the release, his own party members, people ask the question, what's he hiding? It's got to be answered by releasing the files.
And they wonder why they're losing the authenticity battle. Maybe, just maybe, answering a straightforward question would be a good place to start. Now, speaking of accountability, there's breaking news in the James Comey saga. Probably not going to love this news. A federal judge just dealt prosecutors a major setback in Comey's case, ordering them to hand over all secret grand jury records to his legal team. And he also called out a disturbing pattern of what he said was investigative missteps.
A federal judge late this morning tore into the DOJ and interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, arguing that she made improper comments to grand jurors that could harm Mr. Comey's rights as guaranteed to all defendants in the American justice system. Sandra, his case is set to go to trial in January. His team, though, is trying to get the entire thing thrown out, and DOJ is standing behind Lindsay Halligan.
Well, the judge has now ordered the government to turn over all grand jury audio and sealed materials to Comey's defense by the end of today. Comey's already challenging the case on multiple fronts, we know, right? Including claims of an illegal appointment and vindictive prosecution. And while Comey fights to see another day outside of a courthouse, Adam Schiff, he's still trying to convince the American people that Biden's DOJ wasn't weaponized.
I listen in the Judiciary Committee to a lot of my colleagues across the aisle rail with just the most righteous indignation about the horrible weaponization of the Justice Department under that well-known partisan Merrick Garland. And it is so fanciful as to be absurd, but they speak it with what appears to be total conviction. And I don't know, maybe they're better actors than they used to be, or maybe they've so internalized the talking points that they persuaded themselves.
And here's a little fun fact. The guy laughing hysterically at Schiff's absurd gaslighting is Terry Moran. He's the guy you may remember that was fired by ABC for his unhinged rant about Stephen Miller. Now, as for Schiff's claim, it falls on deaf ears, right? Anyone paying even half attention knows Merrick Garland's record. This is the same DOJ that labeled concerned parents at school board meetings as domestic terrorists, carried out an unprecedented pre-dawn raid on a former president's home while slow-walking clear evidence of Biden family influence peddling. And then weaponized the FACE Act against peaceful pro-life protesters. Garland sent a SWAT team to arrest a pro-life father in front of his kids over a minor shoving incident. They coordinated with big tech to censor conservative speech before the election, and they kept J6 defendants sitting in jail for years on misdemeanor charges while Antifa rioters walked free. So no, spare us the gaslighting. Meanwhile, while the left keeps spinning stories to protect their own, the president is actually taking action for everyday Americans, rolling out a new strategy to tackle high prices, starting with your grocery bill. So the president is rolling back tariffs on everyday staples, coffee, spices, fruit, beef, you name it. And the move is aimed at easing that sticker shock that so many are feeling at the supermarket. The question I'm sure many of you are asking, how fast will you actually feel the difference? Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
We inherited this terrible inflation. We are flattening it out. So I would expect in the first 2 quarters, we are going to see the inflation curve bend down and the real income curve substantially accelerate. And when those 2 lines cross, Americans are going to feel it.
And you have to give the president credit here. He's actually listening. He invited top CEOs to the White House recently for a dinner where everybody pitched ideas on how to make life more affordable. A real brainstorming session, not one of those Washington meetings where everyone just nods and nothing changes. He's rolling back the tariffs, and it looks like this is just the first sign of what he's willing to do to course correct and deliver on a campaign promise.
From an economic standpoint, our prices are coming down very substantially on groceries and things. They're already at a much lower level than they were with the last administration. And we worked on it this weekend, and you're going to see some of the items that were a little bit higher. They were lower than the last administration, but a little bit higher. We're going to have some little price reductions, and in some cases, some pretty good ones.
It's honestly refreshing to see a president recognize people are hurting and actually do something about it. Compare that to the last administration, 4 straight years of policies pushing prices to the breaking point, and then they told us, don't believe your lying eyes.
What we're not going to do is tell the American people that they don't know how they're feeling, which is what the Biden administration did. They said it was a vibe session. You don't know how good you have it. And we are working every day to get these prices down.
And let's not forget, under Biden, groceries climbed a staggering 23%. Under Trump so far, only 1.4%. Now, with that said, there are tax cuts on the way set to take effect in January. Remember the big, beautiful bill? The president's team says families will finally feel some breathing room as more of their paycheck stays in their pocket. And while families are watching every dollar, some government spending is still completely out of control. For example, Chicago Public Schools, which treated COVID relief funds like their own personal travel budget. I'm talking Las Vegas, Hawaii. Hey, let's go overseas. Egypt, Finland. They even went on a safari. A safari. Meanwhile, the district is staring at a $700 million budget hole. How'd they pull it off? Easy. They skipped the approval process and spent more than double what was allowed. This is your tax dollars hard at work.
The amount spent on travel in 2021 was $300,000. It jumped up in 2022 to $3.4 million, doubled in 2023, and kept getting bigger in 2024. The report concludes that more scrutiny was put to whether the expense paperwork was done correctly than whether the expenses were excessive. As a result, more than 90% of the traveling employees went over the allowable limits. Oftentimes, lodging and airfare was double the allowable rate. One of the reasons the trips were not rejected is that they were not asking for approval. Of 15 international trips noted by the Inspector General, 12 were never submitted for approval.
Every employee who gamed the system should be shown the door immediately. But they won't, because the district is already begging for more teachers. And while they cry staffing crisis, they casually burn through millions that could have actually helped their students.
We do need more special ed teachers, but if you can think about the fact that $7.7 million in wasted taxpayer money for balloon rides and looking at giraffes and elephants could have gone to hiring 100 of those special ed teachers. These are the questions that we need to be asking.
After the Inspector General dropped this bombshell, Chicago Public Schools, they announced they're freezing all overnight travel. Thank you. They put out this statement, which sounds like it was written by ChatGPT with a migraine. Quote, this measure reflects our continued commitment to financial responsible stewardship and to prioritizing resources that directly support classrooms and students. Didn't see an apology in there. Here's the actual performance reality. 58% of K through 12 students can't read proficiently, and 73% can't do math. One of America's major cities is producing numbers that would make a Banana Republic blush. And maybe, just maybe, this has something to do with attendance, because over 43% of their teachers logged 10 or more absences last school year. And the students, they're skipping out too. But sure, let's keep pretending the teachers' unions are the ones who need more support. I'm telling you, school choice would fix this problem real fast. All right, before we go, here's a quick clip of Trump in the Oval Office today. Listen to the strain in his voice. And as usual, he still manages to get the room laughing. Wanted to end on a good note. Take a look.
Your voice sounds a little rough. Are you feeling all right?
I feel great. I was shouting at people because they were stupid about something having to do with trade in a country, and I straightened it out. But I blew my stack at these people.
Well, it sounds like there's a follow-up there, but can I ask you about Venezuela? You suggested...
There's the what?
It sounds like there's a follow-up there, but can I ask you about Venezuela?
I thought you said there was a polyp, and I said, I don't want to hear that.
Trade tensions, a polyp scare, and a chuckle. Just another day in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. So good. All right, up next, Eric Swalwell is gearing up for a major announcement as he's being criminally investigated by the DOJ. Plus, Jamie Raskin's plot to smear President Trump results in the firing of multiple people. Yeah, that backfired. Go ahead, click on that video you see now on your screen, and I'll see you over there. Hope you all had a great weekend. Thanks for watching today. Glad to have you with me.